Lando Norris has finally admitted it. The McLaren upgrades that gave him pole position in Brazil? They're built around his style, not Oscar Piastri's. And that changes everything. Piastri, once 34 points ahead, now trails Norris by 1. His raw pace hasn't disappeared, the car has simply moved on without him, leaving him chasing with a tool no longer tailored to his strengths. This isn't about lap times anymore. It's about adaptation. The setup that once made Piastri a title favorite now demands a driving style he was never meant to use. The same car, two realities. We're breaking down Norris's surprising comments, Piastri's honest reaction, and the brutal engineering truths behind McLaren's shift. Because the real battle isn't on the stopwatch, it's inside the cockpit. Oscar Piastri didn't just lose 2/10 in Brazil sprint qualifying. He lost something more subtle, more dangerous: the synergy between driver and machine. This wasn't about mistakes. It wasn't about confidence. It was about control. And for a driver as surgically precise as Oscar, watching that control slip through his hands corner after corner is like watching an artist forced to paint with a brush not made for his hand. Lando Norris, after securing a stellar qualifying result, spoke openly about it. "The upgrades suit me now," he said. Just 5 words, but behind them, a shift that's changed the entire trajectory of the McLaren garage. The updated MCL39 now favors his aggressive style, his quick rotation inputs, his chaotic rhythm. It's not a conspiracy. It's physics. It's geometry. And it's left Oscar adapting in real time to a car that no longer speaks his language. Piastri's strengths have always been different. He's not flamboyant. He's deliberate. He builds lap time through consistency, not desperation. Through technical fluency, not theatrical saves. Earlier this season, that approach made him nearly unstoppable. But the balance of the car now demands a driver who provokes, who forces rotation early and manages the instability through instinct. That's not Oscar's game. It never has been. And now, he's forced to play on someone else's court. At Interlagos, that mismatch was exposed. The second sector, flowing and punishing, revealed the new DNA of the McLaren chassis. Norris's style made sense there. Oscar's, once razor-sharp, looked cautious by comparison. But here's what most won't say: Piastri isn't going slower because he's regressed. He's going slower because the machine around him evolved, and not in his direction. That's a different kind of challenge. One few rookies, let alone second-year drivers, are prepared to handle. Yet even in this storm, Oscar remains unshaken. No finger-pointing. No excuses. Only adaptation. He's studying every trace, every correction. He's rebuilding his muscle memory in live combat, against one of the sharpest teammates on the grid, and doing it with the kind of maturity most don't develop in 5 seasons. That's what separates a fast driver from a future world champion. Not raw speed, but the ability to suffer, learn, and rise through it. And that's where we are now. 4 races left. 1 point between them. A car tilted one way. A mind refusing to bend. What Norris revealed in Brazil wasn't just an advantage. It was a warning. Because if Piastri figures out how to turn this disadvantage into fuel, into force, this title fight is far from over. In fact, it may just be beginning. The biggest misconception surrounding Oscar Piastri's recent form is that he has lost pace. That somehow, after pushing Norris through the summer stretch, he's simply been outclassed. But that's not what the data shows. What it shows is far more nuanced and far more revealing. McLaren's car has evolved. And with it, the traits that once made Piastri the more consistent of the two drivers have become liabilities instead of strengths. Throughout the early part of 2025, Piastri excelled because the MCL39 rewarded stability. It needed careful inputs, smooth steering, predictable brake application. Oscar's clean, linear style fit that package perfectly, extracting lap time without overloading the tires or upsetting the balance. He wasn't just fast, he was efficient. And that allowed him to lead Norris in the standings for months. But with the aerodynamic upgrades introduced from Singapore onward, everything shifted. The revised floor, the more aggressive front wing profiles, and changes in the rake philosophy altered the car's mechanical platform. It began to rotate more aggressively at turn-in, something Norris immediately adapted to. His higher energy approach, once more difficult to manage, now unlocks the full potential of the car in crucial medium-speed corners. That's exactly what happened in Brazil. Interlagos exposed this divergence more clearly than any circuit since the updates. Piastri struggled to get the car rotated in time for the exits of turns 6 and 8, two critical points where Norris gained consistent time. And it wasn't about bravery. It was about physics. Oscar was driving the same car, but through a lens that no longer aligned with its core balance. Worse still, this isn't something that can be fixed with a quick setup tweak. The fundamental aerodynamic signature now demands a different input rhythm: earlier rotation, sharper steering, more aggressive modulation of throttle mid-corner. That's not Oscar's natural zone. So he's being forced to abandon habits that took years to refine and replace them under race pressure, with his teammate excelling in the very conditions that compromise him. What makes this battle even more brutal is that Oscar understands all of this. He sees it in the overlays. He hears it in the debriefs. And still, he's not panicking. He's adjusting. Learning. Processing. Sprint weekends give him less time to do it, and yet, he still delivered a clean, top 10 performance in Brazil. That's not a drop. That's a driver holding position with the odds stacked against him. And if the car shifts back toward neutrality, or if Oscar finishes the adaptation, the pendulum could swing again. The key to understanding the current Piastri-Norris divide lies not in qualifying gaps but in engineering philosophy. What McLaren has built in the second half of the 2025 season is a car that functions best when it's provoked. It needs energy at the front axle. It rewards snap rotation at turn-in. And it delivers lap time only when the driver trusts the car to pivot before the apex, something that used to be unpredictable, but now is designed into the platform. Lando Norris naturally thrives in this environment. His style has always been high input, fast steering, rack engagement, early rotation, throttle used as a balance tool rather than just propulsion. It's an aggressive, high-risk style, and it's exactly what the current MCL39 is asking for. That's why, since the latest floor and aero balance changes, Norris's feedback loops have become the team's gold standard. Oscar Piastri, by contrast, operates with discipline and clarity. His lines are straighter. His braking is more refined. He relies on a car that responds to incremental control, not instinctive correction. That style gave him incredible tire life and consistency earlier in the season, but now it leaves him chasing a rotation window that arrives too late. He's turning in, but the car isn't rotating fast enough. The rear stays planted until it doesn't. This creates not only a mechanical conflict, but a strategic one. Because Norris's style opens more setup options, particularly at circuits like Brazil where mid-corner rotation is king, the engineering group naturally leans into that direction. And once development starts bending toward one driver's strengths, even unintentionally, the other is left compensating. That's what Oscar is living through now. McLaren doesn't favor drivers. But it does favor performance. And if the stopwatch says Norris is gaining, the car keeps evolving that way. It's not personal. It's progression. Which is why Oscar's challenge is so unique. He must adapt to a moving target. His inputs aren't wrong, they're out of sync with the mechanical feedback loop the car now thrives in. And syncing that up requires not just physical skill, but mental recalibration. Yet what makes Oscar Piastri so compelling is his quiet refusal to complain. Where others might lash out, he studies. Where others would collapse under the weight of change, he absorbs. He's not losing the car, he's re-engineering his response to it. And that's what makes this story bigger than McLaren. It's about how champions are forged not through ease, but through adaptation under fire. For Oscar Piastri, the numbers on the timesheet tell only part of the story. The real consequence of McLaren's shift isn't just grid position, it's momentum. Once the lead driver in form and feedback, Piastri now finds himself just 1 point behind Norris with 4 races to go. That narrow gap is psychological as much as it is mathematical. It reflects a change in rhythm, in narrative, and perhaps temporarily in team gravity. When a driver is no longer in harmony with the car, everything becomes harder. The corrections are invisible to the outside world, but constant in the cockpit. The braking points shift. The rotation feels rushed. The confidence in traction fades. These aren't tenths, they're instincts being rewritten. And Oscar is doing it with his teammate flourishing, the media circling, and expectations still sky high. That pressure breaks most drivers. It's not breaking him. Instead, what we're seeing is the slow, methodical rebuilding of trust not in himself, but in the car beneath him. Each race is a new test. Not of pace, but of belief. He has to believe that what made him successful before can still win even if it has to evolve. And in the tight, technical circuits to come like Qatar or the unpredictable corners of Las Vegas, there's opportunity. Because chaos levels the field. And adaptability shines. The forecast for Abu Dhabi may show Norris as the favorite inside the team. But Oscar isn't fighting to be favored. He's fighting to understand. To rebuild the connection that defined his early season dominance. And once he unlocks that again, and he'll not only close the gap, he'll re-establish himself as the long-term anchor McLaren can't ignore. And make no mistake, the paddock sees it. Rival engineers, rival teams, even former champions. They know what Oscar is doing is harder than just putting together a clean lap. He's learning how to fight back when the team's direction unintentionally turns against him. He's learning how to absorb pressure without bleeding performance. And he's learning how to evolve in real time. That's not survival. That's leadership forming under load. So when Lando Norris revealed the real reason behind Piastri's struggles, he didn't diminish his teammate. He spotlighted him. Because if Oscar finds the key to this car, if he turns weakness into strength, the final 4 races won't be a conclusion. They'll be a prelude. To a driver not just surviving Formula One, but shaping it.